sorts of things. So we're going to talk today about legacy, and I'm joined as you can see, by Marie Salois, who's Director of Corporate and Sustainable Development. We'll come on to that in a minute. As ever, we are happy to talk about, there have been a lot of questions on legacy, so I think it's good to have the press conference, but as ever, all questions are on the table and we will take them all. Let me just give you a few quick service announcements. The President is still in the mountains, lucky man. He is at alpine skiing Women's Super G at Yanqing this morning and staying at Yanqing for skeleton men's heat today. Couple of other things. Oh yes, a quick, I know you would want me to give you the highlights from broadcasting. I've got two today. Australia 7 reports that 195 million minutes of Beijing 2022 coverage have been streamed on their platform. That's up more than 300%, 306% from Pyeongchang. And I think that goes to what Yanis was saying yesterday about this transition to digital. It's clearly speeding up all the time. And NBC coverage dominated prime time with TV viewership 49% above other broadcast networks combined, it says here. Okay, let me pass now to my colleague Yan Jirong, and she will introduce our online guests, and then we can go for a quick presentation and Q&A. So, Madam Yan.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone. We are very happy that we have invited the Director General of the General Planning Department of Beijing 2022, Mr. Li Sen, and Mr. Liu Yuming, the DG of Venue Planning and Construction Department. And of course, as always, we welcome Mr. Huang Chun to be online again. Speaking of the topic today, that is legacy, I'd like to share with you a story. In the past few days, 2 primary school students in Beijing and the Jilin province received a special letter from the first alpine skier of Jamaica, Benjamin Alexander. So what is the magical connections behind this story? That is because around the opening of the Beijing Games, the primary and middle school students all over China painted 43,000 paintings to express their welcome and wishes to the athletes. And among those paintings, 7,500 were put in the gift bags for the athletes as special New Year gifts. And now, many athletes have expressed their thanks to those students, either through press conference or on social media, and also encourage them to be engaged in winter sports. And I think such warm interactions between the students and the athletes is exactly the way to practice the vision of let Olympics light up the dream of the youth, and I'm deeply touched by such stories. And this is how a unified and warm Olympic family should look like. And I believe that such stories and the beautiful moments will also become the intangible legacy of the Beijing Games. And I believe that all those legacies are shared by the whole world, and it can be passed from China to the rest of the world and also to the generations to come. Now, I would like to brief you on the latest information, first of all, on the competitions. Yesterday, 12 events were held in 9 competition venues with 8 gold medals, and today we will have 15 events held in 11 competition venues, and we will expect 7 gold medals today. In terms of the pandemic control and prevention, between midnight to 23:59 on February the 10th, we received received 179 inbound participants, including 121 athletes and team officials and 58 other stakeholders. 2 were found positive after confirmatory tests, and both of them are athletes or team officials. During the same period, a total of 71,804 PCR tests were conducted. 6,558 were for athletes and team officials, and 65,246 were for other stakeholders. 9 were positive after confirmatory tests, including 5 athletes and team officials and 4 other stakeholders. And as always, all the inbound participants and staff are subject to CLM with total isolation from the public. Today's weather in Beijing is cloudy to overcast during the day with scattered light snow at night, with a high of 8 degrees and a low of -2. Also cloudy to overcast in Yanqing with gusts of 7 to 9 meters per second at the top of the mountain during the day, and the Zhangjiakou also cloudy to overcast with scattered light snow at night. It is expected that from the 12th to the 14th of February, the competition zones will experience significant snowfall and a cooling process due to the influence of the cold air. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I guess we will go to Mr. Liu, who will give us a short presentation, and followed by Mary on legacy. Mr. Liu.
好的，大家好。
Good morning, everybody. So first of all, I would like to give you an overview about what we have achieved in terms of the legacy of Beijing 2022. And later, my colleague and I will answer your question. First of all, the most important legacy of the Beijing 2022 is the achievement of the goal of engaging 300 million people on ice and snow events. According to the recent survey data released by the National Bureau of Statistics, from the success of the Winter Olympics bidding to October 2021, the number of residents who have participated in ice and snow sports nationwide is 346 million. And to a large extent, Beijing 2022 have used a lot of the legacy of 2008 Olympic Games, and there have been 2-edition Olympic legacy. For example, the National Aquatics Center, National Indoor Stadium, Capitals Indoor Stadium, and the Wukesong Sports Center. We have added or optimized the refrigeration system, and these venues have been made more applicable to host different events. And so the venue used to hold summer events can now be used for winter events. We practice the construction concept of green environment protection and inheritance of nature. The 7 ice rinks with 7 ice venues with 9 ice rinks, whether being newly built or reconstructed from earlier venues, all used environmental friendly refrigeration systems. And all the new indoor venues of Beijing 2022 have met the 3-star green building standards. And we have also established the green snow sports venue evaluation standards for Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei. This is an important legacy of Beijing 2022 and the contribution of China to the international Olympic movement. Fourthly, Beijing 2022 has given important drive to the revival of industrial sites and the overall development of the host cities. Yesterday, Mr. Zhao Weidong introduced to you how the Shogun Industrial Park was turned into an Olympic venue. In Yanqing and Zhangjiakou, in the construction of the infrastructure like high-speed high-speed rail and expressways, we have been adopting the green concept all the time. In Zhangjiakou, before the game, the people who participate in Winter Games is only 200,000, and now there are over 2 million people. And so these are all sites that can be used for future Winter Games. Number 5, we have introduced the Beijing practice of closely integrating the use of venues during and after the Games. So while we were constructing and remodeling the venues, we have already made plans for their use after the Games. So during the 7 years of preparation, we have also developed the legacies of sports, culture, and talent. For example, we have established a farmers' ski team, launched the Beijing Youth Club League, and we held the national ice and snow sports season for 7 consecutive years to integrate Chinese culture and Olympic culture in these venues. And in addition, we have also trained a large number of designers, builders of ice and snow venues, and experts in Winter Games operation. And today, we'll release the Chinese and English versions of the legacy case studies of the Beijing 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games 2022 through the official website of BOCOG. And we have collected 44 legacy stories in this report, and you're welcome to download and read it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Liu. Marie-Salwa, do you want to add a quick comment?
Good morning, Ni hao. It's a pleasure to be back again this week here in this room. As we know, Beijing has already made history as the first city to host both summer and winter editions of the Olympic Games. And in that respect, Beijing 2022 has been able to build on the legacy on Beijing 2008. The first very visible legacy is what Mr. Liu highlighted, the 5 venues from 2008, which have been renovated and now can host both summer and winter sports. And probably the most emblematic of this venue is the water cube, now turned into an ice cube. But besides this very visible, tangible infrastructure, we have also many more human legacies coming from 2008. You have first the foundation of a sport and fitness physical activity culture, the promotion of Olympic values, but also the development of a pool of talents and volunteers. Roughly half of the people working for Beijing 2022 are actually having already first experience of the Games in Beijing 2008. And the third legacy that you can witness is actually just across the street. You may have passed by every day you have been coming to the MPC. It's the Beijing Olympic City Development Association, or BODA, which is the legacy entity of Beijing, and whose mission is to carry on the Olympic spirit. And in doing so, they have, for instance, organized, among many other events, the World Winter Expo in the past 7 years, which is a platform to connect all the different actors of the newly created industry of winter sport in China. So as you see, building on these very strong foundations, Beijing 2022 has already delivered its legacy even before the Games began. In 3 different dimensions, as we already heard. It has launched the largest initiative ever in the Olympic history to engage roughly 350 million Chinese in winter sport in different capacities, be they elite athletes or sport amateurs, fan, or even sport professionals, thus creating health and social benefits in China, but also creating a very important global market for winter sports that will benefit many more countries. Second, it has been an accelerator for integrated regional development in 3 clusters, the 3 clusters of the Games, in Zhangjiakou, on its way to become the most popular snow resort in China, where the Games have addressed the poverty in the region, in Yangqing, which is turning into a year-long and sport and cultural destination, which has contributed to the growth in income per capita, or in Shugang, where our colleagues are sitting today, where we have seen in the last couple of days with the big air how an impressive, former steel mill has been transformed into an impressive urban landmark where a vibrant community of people live, work, and play. And last but not least, as it was also highlighted by BOCOG, the games have raised awareness on sustainability in China by showcasing many interesting innovative solutions like renewable energy, CO2 refrigerants, or new green standards, and has created a model for sport venues which are multi-purpose, multi-audience, and can be used throughout the year. What is interesting here in these two examples is that this approach of legacy reflects an overall approach. For legacy to be maximized, it has to adapt to the host and not the other way around. Legacy is about creating long-lasting benefits for people. It's not just about venues. And actually, if you look into the future, this is why we really put the emphasis on maximizing the use of permanent venues as well as temporary ones. And this is why in Paris, for instance, 95% of the venues will be existing or temporary. In Milano, 93%, and in Los Angeles, even more, as no new venue will be built. And last but not least, legacy should be delivered before the games, very early on, to benefit from the momentum created by the preparation of the games themselves. It cannot be an afterthought. So with this concludes my preliminary remark, and I will be open to answer some questions.
Thank you very much. Important topic, legacy, and we'll take some questions on that, but of course, all your questions will be addressed. So if you want to ask a question, a lady there's got a hand up, and then I think it's Christine, is that I can see? Yeah.
Thanks for taking my question. I'm with Reuters. I got a question for maybe Madame Yan.
I'd like to ask, at these games, many events have the so-called naturalized athletes, like the ice hockey competition last night. There are more than half of the Chinese athletes who are coming back from other countries. So what are your remarks on that? And also for those athletes, for them to join the competition for China, what is their significance? What is the role they play for China? Thank you for your question. I think maybe this question will be better answered by the Chinese delegation in terms of the composition of their teams and overseas athletes coming back to China. I can share with you some of the positions of Beijing 2022 on such athletes. We think that such athletes is a very common phenomenon in the sports arena in the world today. And they provide a broader development space for athletes themselves. And meanwhile, it is also helpful to promote the more balanced development of sports in the world. For example, we have many Chinese athletes in table tennis who also compete on behalf of other countries, and such behavior promotes the more balanced development of table tennis in the world. And as for the ice hockey athletes you mentioned, I think, or for other sports events, the proportion, I think, is not very big. Thank you.
Christine Brennan.
Thank you, Mark. Christine Brennan, USA Today. Mark, this is for you. According to WADA code and the ISU rules, Kamila Valieva should not be practicing. USADA's Travis Tigert just told me there is no minor exception, obviously she's a minor, for a provisional suspension. It has to be implemented. It's a substance, the substance that she would have tested positive for, requires a provisional suspension, and her practicing is a violation. Yeah. So comment on that, and also, would you like me to ask the second one now? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, yeah.
So that about her practicing, why is she practicing? And then if Russia keeps the gold medal in the team competition, if there's no change with a doping violation, what does that say to every athlete around the world who is working so hard for clean sport and personally doing everything in their power to make sure that they are not cheating? Thank you.
As I'm sure you know, there's an active case going on at the moment, so I can't comment on the second part of that because I don't want to prejudice a case which is ongoing as we speak.
Right.
What I can tell you, Christine, and it's only just happened, and I'm just perusing it myself as the ITA, as you and some of your colleagues will know, has put out quite a long and detailed statement explaining that, and I think you'll see actually why she can practice at the moment under the WADA code. And you'll see the full details. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not going to go into it myself, but it's explained very clearly there why that is possible. But in terms of the broader issue, you'll understand that it's not because she's a protected person or a minor, although that's very important, and I hope that people will respect that. And that's why we've not been able to communicate virtually at all up until now. And that's why also, because of the speculation in the media about the name and the whole story, that actually the ITA saw fit to put out a clarification statement. There is a full statement which I think explains that and explains the legal situation and why she is allowed to practice.
May I just follow up? Could you restate the IOC's position on doping? Are you for it or against it?
Well, I hardly find it necessary to restate it, but we have 100% policy against doping, and clearly we pursue all doping cases to the end. But clearly, in this specific case, it is an active case, and we are waiting for it to be fully seen to the end. And it would be wrong of anyone to make any comment on this, actually, particularly because we are talking about a case of a minor, a protected person. I think people need to be a little bit careful with their kind of wild speculation on an active case.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so gentleman here.
Bonjour, Bruno Fraioli, sportbusiness.club. Je vais poser ma question en français.
I will ask my question in French, and it's a question to BOCOG. After a week, can we now know how many spectators you had? You said there would be 150,000 spectators, which is about 8,000 per day. Personally, I think it's a lot. If we think of the venues, if I think of the venues where I went personally, and as for the heritage and the sports heritage, is Beijing a candidate, or could Beijing be a candidate for other international sports events in winter, in the mountains, or in Beijing? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. The number of spectators is indeed something that people pay a lot of attention to. I also introduced the information on spectators, but maybe you were not the person who asked that question, so I can repeat the information. As I mentioned, all spectators for the Beijing Games were organized on a voluntary basis, and in the process of that, the pandemic prevention and control comes always in the first place. We of course will consider the need of the spectators. And spectators are coming from both inside and outside the closed loop. And from outside the closed loop, they are mainly residents in Beijing and Zhangjiakou, including fans of winter sports, common residents and students in schools, and also international friends living here. And also before, during, and after they watch the games, they should follow the countermeasures strictly. You mentioned the number of spectators because different venues have different situations, and also it's different for ice venues and snow venues, and also they have different capacity. That is why we have different numbers of spectators in different venues and for different events. And I asked two of my colleagues about the spectators, since so many people are paying attention to that. And they told me that on February the 9th in Zhangjiakou zone, the number of spectators was more than 2,200, and there was nearly 1,000 spectators on site in the National Indoor Stadium. And we also have felt the enthusiasm of the Chinese spectators on the TV recently.
So the spectators inside the venue, they are cheering up for athletes from all countries. Currently, we can see that the pandemic is still an ongoing issue. BOCOG has overcome all kinds of challenges and difficulties to organize spectators on site. This is being very well recognized by IOC and welcomed by the athletes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see a gentleman has already taken the lead there. Yeah, so we'll take you, sir.
Thank you. I'm wondering if you can, at this point, clarify who is investigating this matter on behalf of the IOC, and can you also say whether the IOC from that party has received information on what the timeline for concluding this will be?
All I will say simply is that I will repeat that, as you well know, that we took a decision some time ago to delegate all doping matters to the ITA and to CAS, and therefore we're not involved in this specific case. We're obviously being kept abreast of it by ITA, but it is not actually, as you'll see, I would refer you to the statement, because as you'll see, this is an issue that arose before the Games. Yes, Christoph, or...
Hey, good morning. Christoph Becker from Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. I've got a question a little bit on a different topic concerning Eileen Gu, or Gu Eiling, who apparently said in an interview here that to get beyond the Great Firewall for the Chinese, they should download a VPN. Said comment has been screenshotted and then deleted or censored by the Chinese authorities. Would that be a violation of Rule 50, I wonder?
Yeah, it sounds like, as usual, a lot of ifs and ands. Obviously, I need to look into it and see the comment and whatever, but if you send me the details, I will have a look at it. I'm not going to comment on something straight off the bat like that. Yes, Carlos.
Carlos Groman from Reuters. On the timeline, the athlete is competing next week. How important is it to get it resolved as quickly as possible so that the other athletes know what has happened in that competition, and also for the competition on the 15th or whenever she's due to compete again, to go ahead with athletes who are clean, or at least who have been cleared from any...
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm not going to get into the details of the cases. There's the immediate case and the immediate appeal, and then there's a longer-term case on its merits, which also needs to be heard. But absolutely what is clear, and this is why, obviously, through ITA we are taking the action that we are, is that we want to expedite this as quickly as possible. It's a legal issue, and legal issues, unfortunately, can be very, very complicated. But for all those concerned, not just the Russian athlete, but obviously all the athletes concerned in the previous competition, we all need to see as quickly as we can a resolution of this, and we are working as fast as we can under the circumstances to get that. Yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir, at the microphone.
Thanks, Mark. Steve Futterman from CBS News. I guess for you, Mark. I would like some clarification. I understand you're limited in what you can say because we're talking about possibly a minor person. So if I could take it away from her and just talk about a hypothetical situation. And this is a question about what the rules are if an athlete is a minor, what penalties they face. Is there a loophole in these rules that would allow, let's say, a 15-year-old gymnast, a 15-year-old swimmer, to have tested positive for a performance-enhancing drug, a banned substance, and still allow them to compete in the Olympics? Let's say the test was performed a couple months before. Again, I don't want to talk about this specific case, but a hypothetical case. Are minors given more variance as far as being allowed to participate if they test positive?
Unfortunately, as you probably guessed, I'm not a legal expert on this. But I would also say using the term loophole does rather kind of prejudice where your question is coming from. I don't know the rules, and even if there is a loophole, it would depend on the specific circumstances, the age of circumstances. So it's impossible for me to discuss that. I certainly, as you rightly said, won't discuss this.
Yeah, no, and I know loophole does sound pejorative, but sometimes there are cracks in certain rules. We see them not come up until they do come up, and it's something sometimes people don't realize.
I'm afraid is a question you need to address to WADA, because they are the guardian of the rules and the regulations, and they would know the exact answer. I don't want to misspeak on something quite so sensitive as that.
And I do have a question on legacy.
Thank you.
Shocking.
By all means.
Yes, that one, you'll like that one.
Hold the front page.
So Nathan Chen yesterday grew up in Salt Lake City, a host city for the Olympics, and I think people in Salt Lake City were inspired by having the Winter Olympics. I'm wondering what you think maybe in 20 years we're going to see from China as far as Winter Olympic athletes. Might we see the birth of a powerhouse nation when it comes to winter sports because of the enthusiasm that's been created? All your citizens, and there are so many of them, seeing these Winter Olympics on TV and watching the coverage and everything.
I guess that is a question for Madame Yan.
Thank you very much for your question. So you are thinking about now the Chinese people are quite enthusiastic about winter sports. Winter sports sounds cold, but now it's very hot in China. I myself is quite optimistic about the future of winter sports in China. First of all, from my personal view, if we want to develop winter games, first of all, the development of winter games have already been integrated into a national policy. We have introduced a number of policies and documents to further roll out winter games in China and attract more participation. Secondly, as China further develops its economy rapidly, the Chinese people would have more demand for health, recreation, entertainment, and sports. So there will be a diversified needs from the Chinese people. I believe that will be a good foundation and a good prospect for the development of winter sports in China. In order to prepare for this Beijing 2022, we have also had a good talent pool, coaches, all types of professionals and experts. So we have accumulated a lot of expertise, which will also be a good foundation for the future development of winter games, winter sports in China. So I'm quite confident. The development of winter sports in China will also push forward the development of ice and snow industry, ice and snow tourism, including the coordination or the exchange and cooperation with foreign partners on ice and snow industry. So as President Bach once said, that Beijing 2022 has changed the landscape of winter sports in China and in the world. China has been writing the history and is trying to promote the development of winter games worldwide. And also China has played a role for the development of winter tourism, not just in China, but also for other countries. I believe maybe Mr. Li Sen can add something. Yes, Madam Yan has been quite complete in her remark. So the ice and snow industry and winter sports. So we have introduced a number of policies to support winter games, and such policies will not end as we end the Beijing 2022 Olympic Games. This policy will still be there. And when we look at the training of talents, we focus on young people. So we have organized an activity to introduce winter games into schools. Young people are the future. We plan to have over 5,000 schools which have been featured in winter sports by 2025.
On the other hand, we also plan to improve the winter sports facilities in China. Like Madam Yan said, a lot of talents have been reserved or built up for winter sports in China through the Beijing Games. Take Beijing as an example. We have trained the coaches, many coaches, for young people to learn winter sports. And that number of that in Beijing is more than 23,000. And we also have a lot in Hebei province. And I think all of these efforts provide very good support for the future development of winter sports, including the manufacturing of winter sports equipments and facilities. So like President Bach said, the Beijing Olympic Winter Games will open a new era for the world winter sports. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone's eagerness to get up to the microphone, but I have to try and be fair to everyone. So can you wait to be, it's fine for you two, but can you please wait to be called? I do get through everyone. I think we've done an hour every day and we've got through all the questions, but to be fair to all of your colleagues, I think we should try to take it in order of people raising their hands, not who goes to the microphone. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Adams, Marcus Moore with ABC News. Thank you for taking my question. I just have a couple of questions on the issue regarding the team skating event. If I may, as you acknowledged, this had to do with a test that was done before the game. So my question is, why is it just now coming up, you think? And in addition to that, we're talking about the legacy of these games, and I wonder how concerned is the IOC about the impact that this may have in tainting the magic of the Olympics that we have come to know so well? Thank you.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I think it's explained in the ITA document which lays out the facts. It was carried out a test, I think before Christmas in Stockholm. And there, I think you would have to ask, I can't tell you why the notification only came more recently, but there I think you'd have to contact WADA for the answer to that question. In terms of reputation, I think these things, and obviously it's difficult with this case ongoing, so I don't want to refer to them. Such cases are not helpful to the games. I think hopefully most people see that of the 3,000 people competing here, there are some wonderful sports, some great sport, and hopefully we can continue to concentrate on that. But you'll also appreciate that we need to, these cases need to be prosecuted properly, taken care of properly, and due process needs to be gone through. Otherwise, I think the confidence of people would be even less. So I think it's very important for everybody concerned, not least the 15-year-old athlete that's concerned, that we have due process, that it's seen to be done properly, and that people can have confidence in the decisions that are taken. Yes.
Hi, Mark. Thank you. Adrienne Arsenault from Canadian Broadcasting. Listening to you talk about the minor, I mean, absolutely, 15-year-olds are not responsible for what they put in their systems if we're talking about a banned substance. So even though they are the ones who face the consequences, I'm curious what your message is for the adults around a 15-year-old athlete who can help make them stars, but can also help ruin them if a banned substance is involved. What would the IOC like the adults around an athlete like that to know?
I think I'll say two things. Firstly, I'm not going to discuss this specific case, so it's impossible for me to discuss this specific case because it's under consideration at the moment, as you'll understand. We created an entourage commission. We realized some time ago that this is very, very important, that all of the people, the coaches, doctors, and everyone around the athlete, it's important that they have their responsibility too. And by the way, we don't just look at athletes involved in these cases. We do look at the entourage. It is very important. But I really don't want to speak much further on this topic because it strays into discussing the case, and I can't do that, I'm afraid. Okay. Wakako from Yomiuri. Yeah.
Wakako Yuki from the Yomiuri Shimbun. Two questions, one to Mark. Just technical question regarding this team event. So suppose one athlete were compromised, doping, positive, anything. would the team itself will be disqualified, or the points will be recalculated when the IOC would consider medal reallocation? And another question to Ms. Yan. Thank you for sharing your story at the opening remarks. And of course, these COVID hit Olympic Games, Tokyo as well. So a lot of planned legacy, intangible legacy especially, diminished. And how did you try to reassess those, well, in a way, diminished legacy, and then try to create other channels like what you just, told us? What are the things that you try to recreate for the intangible legacies, especially for the children?
Yes, just for our colleague from ABC, like you, I'm reading going through the statement from ITA up here as you probably are down there. But just to confirm, as I said, that the sample was taken on the 25th of December at the test that took place at the Russian Championships, and it was analysed in Stockholm. And I think the full details of that, or some details of that, are in further details are in the release. Wakako, as for the question of teams, it varies from federation to federation. I think it's better if I put you to the ISU, who would be able to answer in this specific case what the case is. It depends on each federation and the size of the team what the decision would be. For the other question, Madame Yan.
Well, thank you for your question. I'm not sure whether I understand the meaning of your question. Can you please ask your question again?
Because of the COVID-19, a lot of things, especially human interaction type of legacies, were diminished. And Tokyo also had experience of diminishing legacy. All things planned were not really come to realization. So what was that type of experience with Beijing 2022, and how did you try to turn it by doing recreating legacy in other type of approach?
Okay, thank you. I think with the pandemic, for us to hold the games, it indeed creates a lot of difficulties against the face-to-face or direct communications, especially between people inside and outside the closed loop. But I'm sure we still have opportunities for either athletes or the journalists inside the closed loop to have such experience, because they also interact with either the staff or the volunteers of the organizing committee, and to know them better and to know the host city better, especially now with the development of internet and other technologies. We are able to address a lot of issues not in a face-to-face way. And also about the legacy, especially the intangible legacy based on human interactions. I think in the briefing of Madame Salois, she mentioned such intangible legacy in many ways. And in my view, intangible legacy is an important part of Olympic legacy. For example, in 2008, we proposed green games and a high-tech games and humanistic games. And in 2022, we have the concept of a green, inclusive and clean games. So green, high-tech, and sustainability have been the unchanging theme, and for such concepts to be more deeply rooted among people, I think it's also a kind of intangible legacy. Also, volunteering. Volunteering has become more popular and more widely accepted by the Chinese people, and also the concept or the awareness of health and engagement in sports is more rooted in people's mind in China, and I think that's also a kind of intangible legacy left behind by the Beijing Games, because especially more people in China will be engaged in winter sports and enjoy the sports.
What is worth mentioning is the Olympic spirit. The further dissemination of the Olympic spirit, and people are trying to have shared understanding, trying to understand each other better, and trying to show the spirit of solidarity. As the motto says, we stay together. These are all important intangible legacies, and these spirits will be better disseminated across the world. This will be a very important intangible legacy. I hope I have answered your question. Thank you.
Mary, do you want to add something?
Yes, thank you. COVID or non-COVID, this is why it's so important that legacy starts as early as possible and benefit fully from the very numerous years of preparation of the games, not just the 2 weeks of competitions. And as we speak, actually all the upcoming edition of the games are already preparing for the legacies, be it Paris 2024, Milano Cortina 2026, or Los Angeles 28. And this is how I think this is really important to restate that this is what Beijing 2022 has done, and this is how they came to the 300 or over 300 million citizens engaged in winter sports. If they had waited, they would never have reached this level.
萨卢瓦女士说的特别好。我想问问我们分会
I think that is a very interesting, very good comment from Maria. I want to invite my colleague to add on this topic. So BOCOG and IOC were coordinating and making plans for the legacy. So the legacy plan was already in place in the process of the preparation of the Beijing 2022. So in the past 7 years, in our preparation, we were always thinking about what the legacy would be. Over 300 people engaged in winter sports, volunteers. So we are looking at the legacy for economic and social, sports and health legacies. Before the actual opening of the games, we have already seen a lot of legacy which will be carried on. During the time of the games, people get together, share things. These are all very important legacies. So we are trying to overcome the impact of the pandemic. Even against such a situation, we can still encourage all the participants to experience as much as they can in Beijing and during the games. That's what I want to add. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gentleman here, then the lady in red, and then I'm going to go over here. So, yes, gentleman.
Hi, this is Alan Wan from Bloomberg News. I want to ask you about the Chinese men's hockey team. 3/4 of the team, athletes from the U.S. and Canada. As far as I know, the rules are you either have to naturalize or you have to be from the national team. And we've read that some of these athletes, didn't naturalize or didn't change their passport. Just want to know if whether or not there were new and innovative methods or strategies undertaken by Chinese government in order to allow these athletes to participate in these games.
Not that I'm aware of. We have a system, it happens all the time, by the way. We have people changing nationalities, happens quite a lot, often for personal reasons, marriage and so on. So it's normally an agreement between the federations, the two NOCs and the federation involved. And if they all agree on it, then it can take place. And I think I'm right in saying usually, obviously, they would have to have a passport. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, lady in red, I think, has been waiting, and we'll come over here for a bit.
Good morning, Chris Reyes with CBC News. Just on the question of fans for BOCOG, can you confirm that there has been no positive cases among spectators now that you've been monitoring them for a week? And Madame Yan, you were speaking to the enthusiasm for these games so far. Are there plans to bring in more spectators for the closing ceremonies, and are you guys preparing for that already, considering the long process it takes to bring them into the venues?
好，谢谢你。我前几天也说过，这个
As I said a couple of days ago, whether we want to invite more spectators, that is only an assumption at this moment. So we'll still have to make the judgment as we proceed. Whether there are positive cases among the spectators, I think I would like to invite Mr. Huang Chun to answer that question. Thank you for your concern whether there are positive cases among the spectators. So from January the 23rd, we launched the COVID information every day. So we release the information within the closed loop, but people are also quite concerned about the situation outside the loop. I can tell you that there are no positive cases outside the loop. And a lot of the spectators were at the opening ceremony or at other venues as the spectators, and none of them was tested positive. So please rest assured, within or outside, inside or outside the loop, is pretty safe, and the current control and prevention system has been quite effective. We'll stick to the current rule. Thank you very much.
From Reuters TV there, I think, was been asking for a while.
Hello, Ian Axon from Reuters TV. Mark, were the IOC tough enough with Russia in the first place, and should Russia or the ROC have been here at all? Historically, rather than this week.
Well, I would say yes, we took every action we thought was important, always remembering that the emphasis was on the individuals, that we don't have mass justice against groups of people, that we take out individuals who are proven guilty. It's a principle of law in your country, I was going to say as well as mine, but I think it's probably the same country. The individuals are allowed to be tried individually. So we wouldn't try a whole class of people and chuck them out on the basis of that. We give people the right to be innocent until proven guilty. So yes, we took tough action. You'll see that action is still in place here, that we have we don't have the Russian team competing in the same way, that they're not allowed to have the flag or the anthem and many other things. It's quite a tough sanction, which is continuing. So yes, I think we did take tough action, but appropriate action. And you know, the idea of the central principle of the IOC is that we have to be politically neutral, that we don't bow to either side, to all sides, any side in these cases, and that we try to take a principled decision. And the principled decision in this case was to respect the rights of individual athletes and to allow them, many of whom weren't even born at the time of this incident, to compete if they should be able to. Yes, sir, gentleman there, and then, yes, sorry, gentleman over there.
Hello, Angus Watson from CNN. The ITA statement indicates that the results of the team figure skating event won't be processed for a while now because the investigation needs to conclude fully. Does that mean that the medal ceremony will take place after the Olympic Games? What will that look like if the medals have to change? Will Team USA just get their gold medals sent to them in a box by FedEx?
We have to wait for the process to run its course. Obviously, we want to expedite it quickly. There are possibilities for that to happen, but I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to get into it here. But clearly, those two are separate, and we hope that the whole issue can be expedited in the interests of every athlete, not just the Russian, but also, as I said earlier on, in the interests of all of the athletes competing.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Thank you. Yeah, gentleman there's been asking for a while. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Two questions from Xinhua. First goes to Mark. As we are reaching the middle point of the games, how the IOC comment on the overall operations of the games? My second question goes to Madame Yan. I will ask in Chinese.
A question to Madam Yan. Just now you talked about the intangible legacy of Beijing 2022. If we look at Beijing, what are the things we have taken from Beijing 2008 in terms of intangible asset, legacy? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I probably think you're not actually interested in my opinion because I'll only tell you that I think it is great, which I actually do. But what I can tell you more importantly is that the athletes who've been taking part have, to a man and woman, I think, more or less been very, very complimentary about particularly the venues and particularly the mountain venues at Yanqing and Zhangjiakou, which are, and if you haven't been up there, unfortunately during competition I can't get up there, but I saw them just before. They are amazing. They are really state-of-the-art and really, really impressive. And I know also we have difficult situation with COVID, and I understand that, and quite rightly, a lot of people have had a lot of trouble. We have also had a lot of compliments from people understanding that given the situation that we are in a global pandemic, that somehow we have managed to get together. We still have a week to go, but to get together the best winter athletes of the world in Beijing to compete. And I think we've kind of almost discounted that. We've kind of almost forgotten what we're doing here. It is quite an amazing thing that we have managed with our Chinese partners to get all these people not only to be here, but to qualify, to get here and to compete. Are there issues? Yes, I'm sure there are. But I think if you'd asked me a month ago if I thought I would be here, I thought I would be here, but if I thought I'd be in this situation talking about very successful games so far, I don't think I would have been able to say that. And I think it has been a really pretty spectacular effort by everyone concerned, which is appreciated by the athletes and other stakeholders, of course, as well. Madam Yan.
For this question, I touched upon just now. If I were to add anything, I think first of all, in terms of what did we inherit from 2008, the first thing come to my mind is being someone who has served both editions of the games, including the staff and the volunteers, many of whom have served both editions of the games. And so to a certain degree, I think it's exactly because we have experience in 2008. So even though we are faced with the challenges created by the COVID-19 pandemic, we are still confident and capable of hosting the Beijing Games in 2022 on time, as promised. And like Madame Salois said, Beijing made history as the first city to have hosted both editions of the Olympic Games. So from the perspective of inheritance, first of all, I think it inherited all the venues from 2008. Besides that, in terms of torch, medals, and slogans, we also see such legacy or inheritance. And we talked about intangible legacy, including sustainability concept and the legacy of Olympic spirit and the volunteering spirit. They're all important intangible legacies. So if we have to sum it up, I think from 2008 to 2022, if we summarize it with one sentence, I would say one city, one group of people, one spirit. And against the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic, we hope that through the Beijing Games, we can bring to the world more confidence, more strength, so that we can stay together for a shared future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think Steve, no, lady there in red. While you're going to the microphone, just to tell my colleague from Bloomberg, Rule 41.1 of the Olympic Charter, a competitor must be a national of the NOC which is entering such competition. So have a look at the Olympic Charter. Yes, lady there.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. My question is to Mr. Li Sen. I'm from CMG. Regarding the venues of the Beijing Games as the legacy, can you please tell us the post-Games utilization plans of those venues and what role will they play in China in the future? Thank you for your question. The Beijing Games venues in the beginning of our plan and design, we already considered the post-Games utilization of the venues. And the utilization of the venues, first of all, to have top-level venues, we should stage top-level sports events here. So we were asked before whether we will stage other international events in those venues in the future. Actually, the owners of the venues have already talked with the IFs, who are very happy with the operation of the games and the events, and they already told us that they hope to be able to host some of the future events in those venues. Second, good venues must serve the public. And in the design of those venues, we already considered the need of the public in the future, so those venues will be open to the public, like the National Sliding Center. The event is called something like a Superman event, but we already planned to open this venue to the public post-games. So in the finishing area, where the slope is not too difficult, we planned an area that will be kept to be used by the public after the games for them to enjoy the event. And also, all the venues will be operating all year round. That is not a big problem for ice venues, but for snow venues, we also made plans. For instance, in all other 3 seasons, we plan to organize activities like tourism and outdoor activities like cycling. So for each and every venue, we already have a very good plan, including the Genting Snow Park in Zhangjiakou. Besides skiing population, the population for other activities like the tourist population is actually much bigger than that of snow sports in this area. When we were planning the post-games utilization, we were not simply considering one single venue on its own. Instead, we made a comprehensive plan for all of them. For example, the venues in Yanqing were planned together with this section of the Great Wall there, as well as other facilities locally for the post-games utilization. We also had a coordinated plan for the 3 competition zones in Beijing, Yanqing, and Zhangjiakou by utilizing the fast-speed train, and it's part of the integrated regional plan. We plan to build a Beijing, Zhangjiakou, and the Yanqing tourist belt. So after the games, we'll be able to use it in a comprehensive way. They are top-level venues, and I'm sure they will play a very important role in promoting the development of winter sports in China.
Yes, just a comment. I mean, the venue model that is developed here is interesting in the sense that it is really built with legacy in mind, as flexibility is built in from the beginning. All the venues are multi-purpose, multi-audience, and hence it maximizes the potential for them to be used all year round, and also their longevity. So it's an interesting model.
We are running over. Steve, you wanted a quick word, and then we'll take one more question in the back there. But I think
Mark, Stephen Wade from AP.
Yes, Steve.
Yesterday, I had the last question. You cited your mother, saying she was happy with the games. I want to cite my friends. How can I explain to them, if I pick up the phone today, all this confusion, when we're going to know if the skater's going to skate, what we do with the medals, who gets the medals, when are we going to know that? How can I make a simple phone call to my friends to, wrap up this confusion and simplify it for us? Tell me.
Just tell them that legal cases can be very difficult, but it's really important that people get full justice. Yes, sir. Next question.
Thank you. We see that in these games, there are many young athletes who were born in the after 2000 have been performing very well, but we also see athletes like Pechstein, who has competed in several games. So can you tell us the composition of the athletes in terms of the age? And also we see other athletes like Yunia from Japan, who is a figure skater, who are competing in their last Olympic Games. So for athletes who, although didn't win a medal, but do we have opportunities to interview them, to know their stories? Thank you.
Obviously on the last question, there's the mixed zone, so you can speak to the athletes as they come through the mixed zone, and then if you want to speak to individual athletes, then you would go through the National Olympic Committee, is the best way to reach them, I would suggest. The other question was about ages, the ages of athletes, I think. Yeah, I mean, I don't carry that information myself. It would normally be compiled by each National Olympic Committee, so I think it's probably, I'm not sure I can come back to you on that one. I'm not sure there's a centralized thing, but their ages are all available, I think, on the website, so you can find it there, but I don't think we have a centralized thing on that. I'll come back to you. That's it. Thank you very much for your time. As I say, I think we got through just about everyone today. Unfortunately, one or two we didn't get to, but previously we have. I'll be back at 11 o'clock tomorrow, bright and breezy. See you then. Thank you very much.